Yeah,
That's sorry. Okay, good morning. Thanks for bearing with us as we got set up. This is the Finance Committee meeting. It is Thursday, June 20th at 11 o'clock. And we are at the Ocean Shores Library. You can see everybody that's sitting at the table. We have Chief Ritter, Assistant Chief Mandela, Assistant Treasurer Shantae Nations, the Mayor, City Administrator, and Becky, our project.
And
me?
And then we have, from council, our committee, Councilmember Hartman, Councilmember Klein, and Councilmember Taylor on Zoom.
Good early afternoon.
Okay, so our first, order of business on the agenda is the financials. I'm not sure if everybody got a chance to look through the financials from May, and we want to say thank you to Shantae because she's getting those out there very quick in comparison to past times. We do have, and we've been speaking with our CPA on this too. You'll see a few of the funds that we typically look at, not so much our general fund monies that we have allocated for water, sewer, storm, but our sales tax, our utility tax, hotel, motel is down in comparison to last year, but we are anticipating it to trend back up a little bit just based on coming out of the winter months, and this is always 1 month behind, so we're not antsy yet. Does anybody have any questions that we could answer or get answers back to you on anything related to the May financials that came out?
Yeah. Can you give us our general fund balance?
I don't know if I wrote it. Oh,
It should be on
upper right.
yeah,
the monthly cash, so it's 4,314,853.90.
did you catch that?
Is muted.
Barely.
It's 4,314,853.90. And that's on the second page of the executive summary, the City of Ocean Shores monthly cash activity summary. Ending balance general fund 001.
So train us on what the difference between that on page 4 at the 4.3 and on page 6 where it says 3.183 million. That was my question I had asked earlier, just to clarify so I don't keep looking in the wrong spots. Not page 6 of this agenda, page 6 of the financials that you sent out, the 100 pages of financial. Or let's just go over it later. If it's 4.3, that's what it is, and then you
Are
can
you looking at
school me
the
later.
executive summary or are you looking at the revenue and expense report?
I'm looking at, I can't go to it now. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll just come back to you later.
Okay. Yeah, because on our executive summary, it's matching on all pages, even the final page for financial reporting, so. We'll take a peek at it and get back to you and see what you're seeing versus what we're seeing. Councilmember Klein or Councilmember Taylor, did you have any questions in regards to the financials?
No, I did not.
Okay, thank you.
If we're still talking about financials, I just wanted to say that to council, we really need to be paying attention to our fund balances, capital improvement fund balances. I'm scared to death that we're not saving enough money for the future projects. Capital fund balance of water is 1.7 million. 531,000 in sewer. And we just need to be paying attention because we're not saving enough money yet. In my opinion.
And so that'll be really good feedback, especially when we get to our budget calendar. And as you guys go through your priorities, it might be different than just by project for council to look at and more over fund balances and how we get to those. So it might just be a better or more unique way to list out your priorities, you know, based on what our priorities are, what do we want or need those fund balances to be at, to be comfortable, not just doing those priorities, but anything that comes up in the future. So it's like a different mindset maybe than the council has done in the past.
And one of the others too was the EMS utility down at about, I think it was 1.6. Yeah, emergency care fund balance at 1.6. I thought that when I could be off, but I thought that a year or two ago when we proposed and passed the raising of the utility bill to citizens, that I thought we were at $2 million then. So I feel like I could be wrong, but I think that we're going backwards in that fund, which is dangerous.
You are correct. That fund is going backwards, and in truth, even when the council did that increase, it wasn't going to go over the next several years to maintain that increase. So it goes back to that, not CPI necessarily, but it goes back to we did a base amount and we didn't move anything for future amounts. So it continues to go backwards. It might have made us whole for a moment or came to the black for a moment, but it's not going to continue that way.
So council members, we're going to have to make that hard decision to actually fund everything properly. You know, we're reading about Aberdeen and Hoquiam and where their numbers are. I think we're in about a $30 a month area, as I recall. And, you know, those guys are needing to be 40, 50, 60 bucks a month to fund theirs. So we're still lower than our neighbors, but we're not doing our jobs yet, even though nobody likes higher taxes. It is what it is.
Yeah, and I think Hope Williams just went up to, I think it's like 42 or 43.
Okay. Anything left on that financial update for May? No? All right. The next agenda item is the purchasing policy, which the council saw for the first time at the June 11th council meeting. There was a lot happening on the draft document that showed corrections, and to the update or amended agenda, we included the documents that were handed out to council the night of. And then we also included them with the memo of the changes in this document that you guys have before you today. So it was very simplistic. Our purchasing coordinator took the sections that had been changed, said what our current limits are, what the state limits are now, and what the recommended limits are requested to be, also giving materials on why there were certain changes, why they took things out, why they added things in. As I stated at the June 11th meeting, a lot of this was to get those minority contractors to go on to city rosters, government rosters, and start spreading that work out amongst those contractors, those tradesmen or tradesperson, I guess. So did anybody have additional questions on the purchasing policy?
Sarah, I don't have any questions, but I just want to thank you for putting together this memo where it is very easy to follow and understand. And it answered a lot of questions I had when I was able to sit down and look at it the way you set it up. So I really appreciate you doing that for us.
You're welcome. That
I've
was
got a-
Jenny. Jenny put a lot of work into it. Listening
Thank
to
you,
her
Jenny.
talk- Yeah, listening to her talk about it, she's been doing it for 110 years, so putting it down to where I could figure it out, she did an excellent job. So
So I've got a couple things. First thing is, correct me, but I think I'm right on the money. We've all had a few people think this was all about giving the executive branch higher spending authority without council's approval. That's not the case. The standing mayor would always be capped at $50,000 without coming to council. You can back me up on that, Sarah?
That's correct.
So we can put
And-
that rumor to rest.
And the recommendation, if I can add, Councilmember Hartman, the recommendations for anything that the state increased, and they did do significant increases. It was the mayor's current intention that things come in front of the council, so the increases were very, they're in the middle. So the state went way high, we were way low. It was to keep those things in the middle, but the council approval is a must and still stayed that way.
And then the 3.20.075 change orders, it specifically says there that change orders can't change the scope of the project. So again, there's nothing there that's giving somebody an open checkbook without the check and balance. So
That is correct. And that was a follow-up question that Councilmember Hartman had after the fact, was specific to that, and that it made sure that the city nor any city employee could just change the scope of work. If something changed, it would still need to be brought back in front of the council.
And so Sarah, and on this, you said we've gone with the less recommendations than the state has said. So if there is ever a time that may need to be increased, would you be able to go in and make those changes as recommended by the state?
No, we have to have council approval, as this is a codified policy in our OSMC.
Okay, so it would just be the same type of thing as this, where it's put in and then we look at it and then we vote on it to increase those limits, because we'd still be staying below or at the state guidelines.
Correct.
Thank you.
I've got one more thing. Tom, do you have anything?
No, not at this point.
Sarah, I've got notes all over my notes. Sorry. I had written down, and this is finance question. How is your life in finance department regarding trying to get the businesses that have not paid their B&O taxes in years and years and years? How's it going collecting some of the way past due taxes from some of our businesses that are not being nice?
Sure. So our business licensing clerk, for any of you that may know, in past years, and she only took over a year ago, Melissa, in past years, the B&O taxes weren't being collected or reviewed efficiently. And so when Mayor Eldwin came on, that was like a big focal point. We pulled a massive report that showed years and years and years of local businesses not filing their B&O tax. And even if they didn't meet the threshold, which is $5,000 for the quarter, you're still required to file a form with the city, even if you filed with the state. You're required to do it both places. So the report was pulled, and we had sent out tons and tons of letters. Education was a big part of it, because a lot of it was, well, wait, I've already filed my taxes with the state. Why do I have to file them with you? And so once we got past that education piece, we got a lot of people that just filed their documents, a lot of zeros, but there were quite a few businesses in Ocean Shores that owed us a substantial amount of money for several quarters / several years of B&O tax. We had a great turnout of understanding that, and people sending in their documents and paying their funds. We did take a different approach for the people that ignored the letters. We've sent certified letters, we've sent multiple letters at this point. And so the final letter gave them a due date of, I believe it was June 14th, don't hold me to it. the mayor's nodding and he knows way better. So, June 14th, and if they did not respond with their effective materials by then, they were being sent through the court system. And so they would have to go in front of a judge at that point and pay through the court system or plead their case, if you will. So
Thank
we
you.
do have, not only have we done that, the business licensing clerk did an excellent job at doing a policy and path forward. So there is a regiment after every quarter that happens that will be followed from our staffing going forward to any staffing that comes in.
Thank you.
Anybody else on purchasing / B&O?
No, I'm good.
Nobody, okay. So the next one is the 25-26 budget calendar. So, I had previously, we did our budget calendar a little bit differently this time. It was one huge document in past times, and we have split that up into three separate documents. One for what council or will be coming to council in 2024. Then we did a staff so that the community and the council could see what the staff would be working on during that time. And then we did just a calendar specific to 2025 when we do the mid-biennium budget review. So we took feedback from council meetings on different things that have come up, such as reviewing fees when we go through our budget process so that we don't find ourselves in the same situation we did with our permit fees. So that has been added to the schedule. We put it on the first year of the biennium when the council's doing the overall budget. We've added some different things that have come, basically when you'll see certain staff presentations, when you'll see certain board presentations, the first and second readings of various specific things that go towards the budget. What else did we add? A thing that we added specific on the city staff, which kind of goes with the council, but is brought up in a different way, is the salary review. If the ad hoc committee remembers, we have the administrative policy that requires in September, a salary review committee will be appointed by the mayor to review the salaries of the administration. So that's on here so that that's forward facing for everybody and doesn't get missed going forward. So I wanted to put this on this agenda, and I've also put it on the council's agenda to receive any feedback of anything you feel should be added, anything we're missing, if we hate to format because it's different and sometimes change is hard. So really you guys are just the first stop to seeing if we like what we see or if we want changes.
I think this looks great, Sarah. Thank you.
Come on, Councilmember Taylor, you don't like something on there.
No, no, I like, you guys do a good job. So that's, you're making it easy for me. I like being easy sometimes.
So I'm noticing some dates on the calendar for, for example, 7/18 of a council study session on a Thursday, the 18th of July. We need to make sure our council members are actually seeing that. It's one thing to
Correct.
put on here. It's another thing for them to actually reserve that day.
Yes, and I completely agree with you, and I think after the discussion at the Tuesday council meeting, we can do something like where I can send out calendar holds for these different things, but also we don't typically have the calendar out this soon, but already all of you work pretty much, and getting you nailed down on dates is pretty difficult, so we wanted to do that sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
So even if we guys wanted to check consensus on those specific dates at that meeting on Tuesday, that would even be great,
Yeah.
Anything on the budget calendar?
Looks good.
Okay, and hopefully this is my last one. Yep. So So the Ocean Shores Golf Course, which typically the golf course is not on, the finance committee agenda. Councilmember Hartman has done due diligence working with the golf course and does a report at the second meeting of each council meeting. But I wanted to bring a few things in front of the finance committee just because it impacts the financials. I'll keep it very high level because we'll be kind of wrapping everything into one package and talking to Troon about it going forward. Since I came into the finance department, we had originally dealt with a check for April. A check for April for $17,000 that we owed the Ocean Shores, or Troon, I should say. And that check was still outstanding, whereas it hadn't been cashed. So when we get our next round of financials, that's on there. It's not outstanding, but it is outstanding in our books, like on our side of the financial. So then we got their May statement that said we owed $28,000. I had given direction for our assistant treasurer not to pay that $28,000 because we did not have a viable address to send this check, making sure that it was cashed, that they received it. And on that 28,000, there were a few inconsistencies on where we saw. One, they did not have our utility fees listed that they're required to pay as a part of their agreement out of the money. So that changes how much was actually due. And then there were inconsistencies in terms of where they put things on their spreadsheet. Say taxes for $5,000, but couldn't give me a viable reason what those taxes were for. So the reason I bring that forward to you guys is because that $17,000 check that we attempted to send them has not been cashed yet. So it's still in our bank account, if you will. And the $28,000 check has not been cashed or sent by the city that also does not reflect in our financials. And so I just wanted to make that very clear to all of you as we work forward, trying to find remedies where the city feels comfortable with the financials and the money we're sending out or getting in, and how they're affecting our current financials at the city level. Does anybody have questions about that?
What was that
It's-
utility bill that they owed us? Roughly how much? Was it 6 or 8 grand or?
They owe us about $3,999 past due. So I don't like to, and obviously taking on a new position, I have to like look harder at these things because I don't want the council member Hartman questions that I can't possibly answer. So looking at them, I don't feel comfortable sending out a $28,000 check
Oh,
that has $5,000 in taxes I can't be told about, is missing our utility bill for almost $4,000. And our assistant treasurer sending multiple emails trying to find an address to send the checks to so that they get cash. I will be putting together a huge, if you will, email and forwarding that to the mayor and city administrator to review and take all of the information that I provide and where I'm uncomfortable, and it could be as simple as they just need to have somebody explain it to me. I don't know. But I'm gonna give that to them, and then they will go to work with Troon rectifying all that, and hopefully I can report that, or Councilmember Hartman can report that back to either the finance committee or the council when we get it fixed.
So to add for the council members to what Sarah said, this has been weeks and weeks and weeks, and I'll say months of torture with Troon. I'll disclaim that the pro shop personnel, the golf course personnel are great. Director of golf is fantastic. Our district manager, Mr. Fosnick, is fantastic. It's the people above them that are torturing us Sarah got into her new supervisory position and has taken a lot of pressure off of all of my pain and suffering with them not being, I won't say receptive, but they don't communicate very well with us. And it's time that, and Sarah's taken command of getting Troon to be responsive to us. And I'm so thankful that Sarah's taken that role. So thank you. It's been quite a ride.
So are they following the contract and the things they agreed to do?
So, that is why I did include the contract, and then I did include, I believe it was 2 excerpts out of their presentation that they made to council on how they would
Yeah.
provide their financials to us. It is my opinion and my opinion only that they are not, but
Yeah.
I leave that to upper management to, talk to them about. I have sent the emails asking about specific things. I
Right.
don't get responses that I feel are satisfactory to be able to tell council or my bosses. So that's why I wanted to bring it forward to you guys, and the mayor and city administrator wanted to be forthcoming of where we stood at this moment.
And I've underlined a lot of portions of the contract where they aren't doing as expected, from giving us the financial statements before the 20th, like they were required to do, to supervising different activities at the golf course, to implementation of standards for agronomy. It's just all a lack of upper management coming here and helping our people do their jobs better. It's easily fixed. They just need to come to the table and do it.
Right, because the person that we have, I mean, he's not there 100% of the time, right? He's district manager over several courses, so he can't do everything.
No, he tries, but he's
I know
got
he does.
10, 11, 12 golf courses.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think every time I send an email, Mr. Fosnick sends 2. So he's definitely trying to help us help them.
Yeah.
So either myself, the mayor, the city administrator, or Councilmember Hartman will apprise the council or finance committee when we figure out what's happening. So that was really just an overview. I don't have any other reporting at this time because I don't have the financials. So for this month, so if nobody else has any questions on that, questions or comments, I'm gonna turn it over to the fire chief and the assistant fire chief on the ambulance transportation resolution.
Awesome, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone, and Rich, Councilman Hartman, I appreciate you putting a bug in people's ear about the utility. It's not a fun issue to address, but just like the topic I'm bringing up today, when the council goes to make decisions to fund things, I feel like it's important that there's a way to maintain that funding. And that brings me to our resolution number 732. This has to do with medical supplies and our ambulance transport and service. And what I discovered, and I got a little more history from Sarah on this, was in 2015, when this resolution was passed, CPI was never included. And so we started doing some research and how can we get this changed? As we all know, with inflation and cost of living, everything's going up. And we would like to stay on par with our neighbors, and we would also like to be able to fund the services that we provide. The medical equipment and supplies that we have are expensive, like everything else is. And we're just requesting that the council would adopt a new resolution to implement, I think it was a 3% cost of living or CPI. And we got our CPI from, since the average age here is 65 years old, we use Social Security's CPI. And so to put it into perspective, right now, if you're there's ALS 1, ALS 2, and basic life support. So an ALS 1 would be a basic advanced life support call. An ALS 2 would be something like where we have to intubate the patient, put them on some pumps, and do procedures and things like that. And then a basic life support transport would be just a BLS, basically non-invasive transport, monitor vitals, things like that to the hospital. With the new rates that we have, so before for an ALS 1 for a resident, you would be billed $1,045. An ALS 2 was $1,190 and a BLS was $800. And with the new increase with the CPI that we came up with, a resident would pay $1,343 for an ALS 1, $1,530 for an ALS 2, and BLS would go up to $1,028. Keep in mind that Medicare pays a flat rate. They generally pick up, I believe it was like $500. And then if you have supplemental insurance, that would kick into, and then you're billed for the remainder of that amount. We do send people to collections. Our return rate on collections was only about 19%. And then, we only get back, I think, what was it, 48%? Was that the number? 48% of what we're billed, and then out of what goes to collections, it was about a 19% collection rate. So I'm just requesting that we stay on par and that we implement the CPI from Social Security to stay on par with the cost of our service.
Chief, one of the things that I know that you two had worked up was you had a chart that showed what everyone else in the county was charging. And you were only slipping in as an average. You weren't the lowest, but you certainly weren't anywhere near the highest. That might help council to see how you came up with these numbers.
Yeah, we'll definitely provide that. Yeah, we're on the medium to lower end, and it's hard to, like for example, one of our cardiac monitors costs about $40,000. One of our gurneys costs about $25,000. There's a lot of costs associated with our medical supplies, and as we know, everything has gone up. So this is just gonna kind of put us in the mid-range, but we'll provide that information for council.
And then for people watching this or listening, this is strictly a user fee increase. This isn't a proposed tax increase. This is a user fee for people that are using your service directly.
Right, correct, Councilman Hartman. The other thing I wanted to make a point of too is if they're a non-resident and they don't live here and they don't pay a utility, they're charged, well, per this new charge, I think it'll go up to $385 for a non-resident fee. So because they don't pay into the utility, so you're right. Just this service fee. This isn't a new tax or anything like that. We just want to implement the cost of living increase into our billing practices.
And this is a fee, so we will put it also, even though you're seeing it now, just like with the permit fees, it will be on the schedule to review because we will
Perfect.
keep in our office a list going the last time it was reviewed. None of this, oh man, we haven't looked at this since 2015 will happen going forward. And that's the big goal here is so we don't have to see increases at all sometimes if they're still on point.
I want to thank you for implementing this. I am proud of you for actually taking control of it. I can't believe we've missed this
For so many years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite shocking when I discovered it and I ran right into Chief Mandela's office and we started to get to work on it. And again, I think Roy presented to the council a couple weeks ago, kind of about the same issue. And I just encourage the council and the finance committee moving forward when they put resolutions like this together, and Sarah kind of just mentioned it, that you know, we need to implement these cost of living increases to stay on par.
Well, thank you for getting our finance department in line, Sarah. I can't tell you enough.
Okey doke. On, anything else from you or Chief Mandela?
Thanks,
You
Chief.
guys did an excellent job and they've been, super easy to get these things in line. So I appreciate that from a agenda building standpoint.
Chief Mandela worked extremely hard on this project. Well said.
Alrighty, and then the last agenda item is just a public works project overview as the Chinook project kind of doesn't close out quite yet, but comes to a close. Just an overview of the financials with the finance committee and project manager Becky Leach will lead this.
Thank you. So in the agenda, Sarah and I put together the monthly expenditure report for 2023 and 2024 for the breakout of the $350,000 ARPA funds that were awarded for the Chinook Park projects. And then there's also in the agenda, the actual breakdown of each receipt separately. And then the monthly expenditure report for the dog park is not included, but the breakdown of receipts that I had is included in here so that finance committee could see that as well. Before Angie left, she took to council to ask to have reallocated the remaining dog park funds to the Chinook Park funds, and that was approved. We haven't done that yet, so you won't see that on the May financials, but that still is going to get done. So if you look at the report that I generated with my receipts in the agenda, what is going to be remaining after the retainage receipts are paid is $26,940. That's what we'll have after work that's already done. We have fence proposals due on the 26th next week. And I expect that project to be around $12,000. And then I'm still ordering some signs that are gonna come in for the wheelchair swing. So there will still be probably around $10,000 for odds and ends. If there's anything else, working with the Parks Advisory Board for Chinook Park to button up. I do know is that the Parks Advisory Board also still is interested in doing the walking trail at Chinook Park. So that's something that we're gonna talk about and look for funding for that to, they're gonna look at redrawing the area for where it will go. It'll be different than what was on the original map, so we're gonna work together and look at that. But, the park, I think looks great. We're getting tons of compliments on the dog park ever since that was opened, and I've seen lots of kids on the playground, so, but any questions on the financials on it?
Not right now.
And just as a reminder, it will be the moving of the dog park money to the Chinook Park improvements is not reflected in your financials because it does, even though you approved, you're okay with it. It's a part of the budget amendment that will come in July to physically move that money to show it on the financials.
So of course, I got a couple of questions. Tom, do you have anything first?
No,
Okay, so I'm listening to our governor tell us we're in a drought. We know that the dog park and Chinook Park it's critical to have them watered because of the goat heads and such. How are we gonna handle that, you guys? What's your solution?
Still in discussion about that right now. I was talking to the street department about that yesterday. I mean, watering goat heads before they dry out is a really good way to mitigate them popping with their pokers. But I think the best way to mitigate goat heads is to rip them out and resod. I mean, that's really the best way. So we're still working and talking on what we're going to do with the goat heads this year. The water department doesn't want us watering at all because of the drought, so we're still working on that.
So then if we have to do that to rip them out, does that mean we have to close down the park for an extended amount of time to do that, to tear them out and resod?
I don't think we need to close it,
Okay,
so.
In the scheme of things, isn't watering those one areas smarter for everyone?
I mean, we've taken other steps to mitigate the use of water, stop hydrant flushing
Yeah.
as a result of the drought. So yeah, it might turn out that, you know, there are certain minimal things we'll have to do to continue to water the parks, but we'll conserve where we can.
So educate me, are you guys literally seeing in our peninsula a drought, or are you just having to deal with someone from Olympia telling us we're in a drought?
We have to deal with people from Olympia
Yeah.
telling you.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I figured.
if you see it from my perspective, I get an email from our water department that says, post this everywhere, and I said, are you kidding me? It's raining sideways right now. But it does have to do with the snowfall, the levels, all of that they are scientifically looking at. And they are declaring that it's a drought, but we are dealing with it from a state level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any indications of any measuring things that we have that we also have an issue? Or are we just being, it sounds to me like we're just being thrown in with problem areas?
So my fear, I mean, since we're together, my fear is that there would be a fire and we wouldn't have enough water to put out a fire. So that's a conversation that I had with Chief a little bit ago, and maybe just throw it out there right now. We have a fire. It's super dry. We are watering parks. We didn't stop hydrant flushing. Is there a possibility we don't have enough water because we're in a drought? Is there a reason that we shouldn't be watering our parks?
So, I mean, I know when the city is full of tourists, I know that when the water pumps kick on, because there's high usage, and then we have a drought scenario. I mean, I don't have any problems with watering parks, but I think if the state comes out with a ban, then we should follow suit. I do think when you guys ixnayed the flushing of the hydrants, that was good. I mean, really good. So I feel really good about that. Obviously, I mean, it's been raining like crazy here, so it's hard for us to bite onto the narrative, but it is fact, it's true. We are in a drought. We'll probably be seeing a burn ban here in the next couple of weeks. I fully expect to see a burn ban coming, but as far as our water supply, I'm comfortable with it. If watering the parks is a priority, maybe we can mitigate it and only do it part-time or whatever, just kind of take the edge off. But that day where it comes, where the government puts out the narrative that, hey, we need to watch our water usage, then we need to follow suit.
And it's not even necessarily watering all the parks, it's just taking care of the dog park area, so we aren't having a problem in those small areas.
Yeah, that is the most important. I agree.
I've got one other thing that I'd like you guys to accommodate me on. Obviously, you know, I'm a little bit more involved in parks than I should be, but we added that ADA space and the sidewalk specifically for the handicapped swing area. And the 27,139.86 should be pulled down from playground to wheelchair swing, because we already have the ADA spot for the playground, and that was already paid for.
That's not true. I spoke to Roy about that, and the ADA parking space had to be put in as well as the sidewalk to the playground. The $107,000 playground required the parking space connected to the sidewalk according to the International Building Code, Chapter 11.
When did
And
that happen? Because that was not, it was said that the original parking spot was sufficient. Is it
The
because
original
we
parking
moved
spot-
the playground further away from it?
the original parking spot was sufficient for the bathroom. What we could have done instead was continue the sidewalk from the bathroom to the new playground, but it's essentially the same amount of concrete. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of another cost-wise.
any particular reason that you didn't put it in the wheelchair swing, since you actually built a sidewalk to it? And it's literally right in front of it?
Put what in the wheelchair swing?
The 27,000 in the wheelchair swing budget.
Because it was.
Literally in front of the wheelchair swing, and it's
Because-
literally got a
yeah.
sidewalk to it.
Because if we didn't do the wheelchair swing, it was required for the playground.
Okay. Enough said.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any more questions on the Chinook Park financial? Semi-closeout, hopefully closed out very soon.
It looks great. The Parks Board did a great job with that.
Okay, and so if there's nothing else, that will take care of this financial meeting. Do I get to say motion good?
Okay, thank you.
Sarah, quick question. Did I see an email, because I'm teaching a class right now, that is Public Works canceled for today?
It is.
It
It
is,
just got canceled right before I came over here. We
Okay.
are going to be attempting to reschedule that for Thursday of next week, if it works out for everyone, but that just happened right before I got in the car to come over here, so,
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.